Self-care is often one of the most overlooked topics when it comes to a thru hike or even going on a shorter backpacking trip. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some foot care and injury prevention techniques, tips, and some items that I like to use to take care of myself when I'm out on the trail to help me achieve my goals and objectives and make that mileage just a little bit more enjoyable. Hey everyone, Knowledge here with Reach Your Summit. Believe it or not, foot and ankle injuries are some of the most common ones that you'll find out on the trail. They can completely derail a thru hike and possibly even alter a shorter overnight backpacking trip. So let's kick this off with some items and things I can do to mitigate and even prevent blisters from happening or having possible foot injuries while I'm out hiking. So one of the most important things is having proper footwear. You want to go with what feels most comfortable to you and works for you only. After all, your footwear is carrying you every single mile when you're out on the trail. When selecting a shoe, you want to have a proper fit. You don't want it to be too tight. You don't want your toes to be jammed against the inner front of the shoe. This can cause you to lose toenails. It can also cause injuries. The other thing that you want to avoid is going with a shoe that's too big. If you get a lot of slipping, you're going to get a lot of friction, which is going to result in causing hot spots. You also might not have as much stability and traction because the shoe's too big and your foot is just sliding around everywhere. So you want something that's going to be nice and secure around your foot with a little bit of room in the front of the shoe to help with swelling that'll happen throughout the day. And the best way to find a proper shoe is to get your foot properly measured. You want to have a proper fit done at a gear shop or a footwear specialist. They'll be able to look at your stride, your gait. They'll be able to see if you're pronating or supinating and be able to see what your arch measures out to be, the width of your foot, the length of your foot, and be able to provide you with all of this valuable information in finding what will be the best shoe for you. Now, footwear is also going to be very subjective. It is going to be one of the most personal choices that we choose when we're heading out on the trail. So I am going to be a little bit biased. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've worn almost nothing but Ultra footwear. That is just what works best for me. As soon as I started wearing them, I found the comfort and the way that the shoes performed and worked with my foot to be the best compared to a lot of other shoes and footwear brands out there. Now, just because this shoe and this brand works for me doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So you definitely want to get that proper fit done and find the shoe that works best for you before you head out on the trail. With the Ultra footwear, a lot of them have the anatomically correct foot shape in the front of the shoe, and they also have the zero drop, so there's no offset between your heel and the forefoot. It works really well for me. I have a lot of room and comfort inside of these shoes, and the Lone Peak has been my go-to shoe for the last 5 or 6 years now. For 3-season conditions, I like to go with something that is non-waterproof. My feet will definitely get wet if I walk through dew or grass or I'm out in heavy rain, but a non-waterproof shoe is going to dry a lot quicker than a waterproof breathable shoe. The thing with waterproof breathable footwear is that it does such a great job at keeping the water out that it hinders the breathability of the shoe. No matter how breathable a shoe will be, water always ends up finding its way in there, whether it's rain running down my pant leg into my boot or just sweat building up inside of my shoe. I find that there's always this fear with getting your feet wet. It's bound to happen, so if you just let it be, your feet will dry, your shoes will dry, your socks will dry. Don't worry about it too much, and consider trying non-waterproof footwear, whether you go with a trail runner like I like wearing, or a hiking shoe, or even a hiking boot that has mesh instead of a waterproof breathable liner to it. Now, non-waterproof is my go-to for 3-season backpacking trips and thru hikes. For the winter time, over the last 5 winters, I actually wore the Lone Peak mids, which had a waterproof breathable liner to it. I don't want to be hiking through snow constantly with wet footwear. That's just a recipe for disaster. I just retired those shoes last winter and I wore the Zero Alpines for a little bit. But this year, I'm going to be wearing the Ultra Olympus mids. These have a Gore-Tex liner to them and the Vibram Mega Grip traction on the bottom. So I'm super stoked to be wearing these as my dedicated backpacking shoe for winter backpacking trips this year. So check back to the channel at a later date to see how these shoes are holding up for me. So we've been sized and fitted and we found our proper footwear for the trail. Next, let's look at socks. Socks are going to be just as important as our footwear. You want to avoid cotton and go with a natural fiber like a merino wool or a synthetic like polyester. You want to make sure that there's some blend of nylon mixed in there for increased durability. So over the years, I've been very happy with Darn Tough socks. I've also worn Smart Wool socks, but for the last year now, I've gone exclusively with toe socks. These are Injinji socks. I also wear Exoskin socks, and this is one way that you can help prevent friction and blisters from happening, along with the non-waterproof footwear. They aren't for everyone. I normally don't get blisters, but I love wearing these socks because it gives me more of a natural toe splay. I also get an increase in traction, and it just feels a lot more natural to me. So it depends on the time of year and the type of terrain that I'm going to be hiking in. These are mid-cushion socks, but most of the time I go with a thin liner-like sock. Same if I were going with the Darn Tough, it would be the liner-like socks. I just find that with the liner socks, my feet are able to breathe a little bit more. They're able to wick and dry a little quicker. One drawback to the merino wool acrylic Injinji socks is that they do wear down a little quicker than the thicker ones, but they have just released a new merino wool sock that has a higher percentage of merino wool. They've completely removed the acrylic, and I've been very happy with them so far. So avoid cotton with your socks. Go with something that is moisture wicking, that'll dry very quick, and provide you with the most comfort that you're looking for when you're out on the trail. Another thing that you can pair with your socks and your footwear are gaiters. Gaiters are basically just shoe covers that'll go over your socks and most of your shoe and help keep your feet cleaner. You're able to continue hiking throughout the day, not wasting additional time taking your shoes off and picking out sticks or stones or pine needles. They also work really well against keeping ticks out of your footwear and your socks. They can be very beneficial. I kind of go back and forth between wearing gaiters and not wearing gaiters. The one drawback to them, even the very lightweight ones, is that you can overheat a little bit, at least I do. So depending on the conditions and where I'm hiking, I might not wear these just to increase the breathability and keep my feet from overheating too much, so I'm not sweating a lot. Anti-chafe healing balm is going to be very helpful too when you're out on the trail. I like to carry Body Glide or Squirrel's Nut Butter or Bag Balm. All of these are going to be working in a very similar way. They help prevent chafing, they help prevent hot spots, and they help prevent blisters from happening. So this is something that I will always carry with me. I will always have it easily accessible for if I need it. And the other item that I like to always have with me is blister addressing tape. So I've been a big fan of KT tape over the years and rock tape. You can certainly use duct tape, you can use moleskin, but I find the rock tape to work best for me. It comes in pre-cut pieces, and I can cut it down even more with my Swiss Army knife if I need a smaller piece. Along with addressing blisters or preventing blisters, I can also use KT tape to address an injury-prone area or an area that's feeling really sore to help give me a little bit of relief. So now I'm going to get into some of the things that I like to do throughout the day when I'm out on the trail to take care of myself, help reduce blisters from even happening, and to just feel a little bit cleaner overall. So the first thing is with my socks. Depending on the conditions that I'm going to be out in, I will most likely only have 2 pairs of socks. Sometimes I'll bring 3 if I'm out on a thru hike, but most of the time I find 2 to be just right. If the conditions are going to be very wet, I will designate 1 pair as sleep socks and keep those completely dry by keeping them in my pack throughout the whole entire day as I'm hiking. And I will just wear 1 pair wet throughout the day with my wet footwear. In dry conditions, I will wear 1 pair throughout half of the day. I'll stop, I'll take a break, I'll clean my feet, and I'll let them air out. Those are 2 other things that I can do. I'll air them out for about 10-15 minutes. I'll also take my socks, I'll clean them in a creek, and in most cases I won't use soap. I'll just use my hands and water, and I'll rub out any grit, body oils, debris, or anything that's in the sock fibers. If I wanted to use soap, I have used Dr. Bronner's in the past. I've also had good luck with Wilderness Wash by Sea to Summit, and I always have a quick drying microfiber cloth with me, so I can use this, help clean up myself a little bit, tie it off to the outside of my pack along with my socks, or strap them to the outside of my pack, and let these dry throughout the remainder of the day. I'll then put my other pair of socks on and continue hiking. Then when I roll into camp, I'll take my socks off. I will clean them the same way that I cleaned the other socks earlier in the afternoon. Then I will hang these around at camp somewhere so they can dry overnight. And then I will put on my cleaned pair that I cleaned halfway through the day. And I just rinse and repeat this process with my socks every day, and it helps keep me a little bit cleaner. It also helps reduce hot spots and blisters from happening. It's a method that has always worked really well for me. And the key with this is letting your feet air out. This will help you more than any of the gear, than any of the items that I shared earlier in this video. By keeping your feet dry, you are going to reduce the likelihood of hot spots and blisters from happening. At night when I'm ready for bed, I like to apply a little bit of my Body Glide or my anti-chafe healing balm to my feet. What this does is it absorbs into my skin. It builds up the oils in my skin once again, so it helps my skin heal. It also gives my skin a water repellent barrier for the following day, so I will always apply this at the end of the day before I go to sleep. Along with cleaning my feet and cleaning my socks and letting everything air out, I will also try to clean my footwear if I can. What happens with our footwear is you're getting all of that dirt and grit built up on the outside, and what happens when you go through wet areas or it starts raining out is that all of those particles in the actual fibers themselves will absorb water water, and it will eventually end up soaking through your footwear. It can also reduce the breathability of your footwear. So I'll try to rinse off my footwear if the conditions allow, where I know that my footwear is going to dry very quickly. And if my shoes haven't dried after cleaning them and arriving at camp, or the rain is finally let up after pouring all day and I get into camp, I can use these. I like to use slow cooker liners. You can also use oven bags or bread bags. And all that I'll do is I'll take my wet footwear off, my wet socks. I'll put dry socks on. I'll take my slow cooker liner bag, put my dry sock inside of it, put my footwear back on, and tie my shoes. And this will allow me to walk around at camp, keep my dry socks dry while my footwear is wet and drying, and allow me to still have some footwear to wear around at camp. And then at night, what I like to do is I like to remove my insoles, set my footwear down under my tarp or in the vestibule of my tent, and I set my insoles down just to allow my footwear to air out to the best of its ability. Keeping this inside of the shoe is going to keep a little bit of that moisture inside of the shoe for a longer duration. One thing that can lead to injuries and blisters is the tightening of our muscles. You're hiking throughout the whole entire day and you're getting all of these little micro tears in your muscles, and then as they recover, they end up getting stiffer and stiffer. So stretching is something that I do every day when I'm out on the trail. One thing I'll do is stretch out my calves. So I can go anywhere on the side of the trail and do this just for a minute or two. What I'll do is I'll cross my leg one over the other and lean forward. Once I've done one leg, I'll repeat the process with the other. So just do it casually and do it enough where you can really feel the stretching, but then back off a little bit. Another thing that I'll do is the overhead reach. This is going to be done with my pack and some weight in it. This is going to help strengthen and stretch out my core a little bit and help with my mobility. So I'll just hold the pack up and stretch from side to side to work my core a little bit. Another one that I like to do to focus on my ankles is I'll just lift up my leg and rotate my entire foot clockwise and then counterclockwise. Do the same with the other leg. And this will help strengthen my ankles, which can very easily be left out of all of the exercises that I'm doing. Another stretch that I like to do are leg lifts. Leg lifts will, again, work the hips and the pelvic area. It'll help with my core, and it's also going to help prevent IT band syndrome from happening. For this one, I'll just lay down at camp. I'll just lay out on my sleeping pad or my footprint for my tarp. I'll lay down on my side and lift one leg up for several repetitions, and then I'll alternate to the other side and lift that leg up for similar repetitions. And the last two stretches that I'll do will be right under my tarp at camp before I go to bed. These two are going to help reduce the likelihood of plantar fasciitis and help prevent injury. And all I'll do is I'll just take my feet and I will move them all the way forward, pointing my toes, and then pull my foot back, keeping my heel on the ground. The other thing that I'll do is I will move my toes on their own back and forth to stretch out the ligaments in that area of my foot. Along with those stretches, if I need additional relief, another item that I like to always carry with me and use on thru hikes and backpacking trips is a massage ball. This comes with me everywhere. Anywhere that I feel tension and a lot of stiffness, I can loosen it up with a very lightweight, small, packable massage ball. And this will work wonders when you're out on the trail. Another technique that you can do to avoid injury and blisters from happening is pacing yourself. Every morning when I leave camp, I am not hiking a 3 to 4 mile an hour pace. I'm starting off a lot slower. I'm also going to be enjoying my breakfast while I'm walking. And so for the first mile or two, I'm going to build up my hiking stride for the day and then start working my way up to a pace that is a little bit more comfortable for me. Hot spots. If I start to feel a hot spot, I will stop no matter what I am doing, no matter what my itinerary or plan is for the day. I will stop. I will let my feet air out. I will address that hot spot, take care of it before it becomes more of a problem when I'm out hiking on the trail. Can also apply the body glide and maybe even take that time to clean my socks and put a different pair of socks on before I start to continue hiking. And blisters. If I start to get a blister, there are a couple of ways that I can address it. If it's very minor, then I might be able to get away with those little donut patches that you can put on your skin. Basically, the center of the donut is what your blister will be inside of, and then I will wrap some of that KT tape or rock tape around that blister patch. The other thing that I can do with a blister is pierce it, and most of the time I will pierce my blister, drain it, put some triple antibiotic on it and a bandage around it, and then I will also figure out what caused it to begin with, whether it was heat, friction, moisture. I'll look at all of those different factors, find out what caused the blister to happen in the first place, and then I will address that so it doesn't happen again and make things even worse when I'm out there. Lastly, if I'm prone to getting blisters despite all of this information that I went over, I will make sure to have some type of preemptive treatment. Any method or tricks that I find work for me, I will use that to help reduce the likelihood of having any issues before I even head out on the trail. So there you have it. There are some things that I like to do and some things that I like to use to take care of myself out on the trail in regards to foot care and injury prevention. These items and techniques have helped me over several thousand miles, and I hope that you find them to help you out too. Is there anything that you like to use or any techniques that you like to do when you're out on the trail? Leave them in a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the like button. Also consider subscribing to this channel because I'm always adding new content to it. I greatly appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, see you on the trail.